The following episode contains material that may be uncomfortable, upsetting, and unsuitable for some audiences. Listener discretion is advised. Today, we journey to Tombstone, Arizona, a town frozen in time, where echoes of gunfights, revelry, and whispered secrets still drift down the dusty streets. At the heart of this legendary town lies the Birdcage Theater, a place where history and the supernatural intertwine. Equal parts saloon, gambling hall, theater, and brothel, the Birdcage Theater opened its doors on Christmas Day in 1881 and quickly became one of the most infamous spots in the American West. Hello, fellow fiends. Welcome to another episode of Creepy Cases and Spooky Spaces, the podcast where the world of true crime meets the paranormal. I'm your host, Cassiopeia. Join me every Tuesday as I deep dive into chilling cases that have baffled investigators in the eerie places where dark stories still linger. And if you subscribe to Patreon or Spotify, you get bonus episodes every other Friday. Today, in this episode, we'll uncover the tumultuous history of the Birdcage Theater in Tombstone, Arizona. We'll talk about the people who walked its stage in shadowed hallways and the many ghost stories that refused to die. Tombstone in the 1880s was a boomtown, a place where fortunes were made overnight and lost by morning. Silver lured miners by the thousands, and with them came the inevitable trappings of a frontier town: saloons, gambling dens, and houses of ill repute. William Hutchinson, a variety performer from San Francisco, saw opportunity. Along with his wife Lottie, he opened what he imagined would be a venue of class and refinement: the Birdcage Theater. They offered light opera, family-friendly acts, and an elegant evening performances. But this wasn't San Francisco. This was Tombstone. The rough, rowdy mining crowd wasn't interested in culture. They wanted bawdy entertainment, and the Hutchinsons adapted quickly. They canceled Ladies' Night, brought in burlesque dancers, risque comedy, and transformed the theater into a place that catered to every indulgence. Now, the building itself was remarkable. 13 cribs, or curtain balcony boxes, lined the second level, where prostitutes entertained clients while performances took place below. The boxes were discreet, but opened to the theater, allowing the mingling of voyeurism and performance in a way that was both scandalous and oddly accepted at the time. One of the first acts was Mademoiselle de Grandville, the so-called female Hercules who stunned crowds with her feats of strength and her signature act, biting through iron with her jaw. Then there were the poker games, or should I say, the poker game. Perhaps the most legendary in Western lore. Held continuously for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, for nearly 8 years. It saw an estimated 10 million pass through. And some of the Old West's most notorious names sat at that table: Doc Holliday, Bat Masterson, Diamond Jim Brady, and more than a few outlaws. The theater took 10% of the pot, making the owners quite wealthy, at least for a little while. In 1882, water struck in the Grand Central Mine, and though engineers brought in giant Cornish engines to pump it out, the problem persisted. When the hoist and pump burned down in 1886 and silver prices dropped, Tombstone's fate was sealed. The Hutchinsons sold the theater, and it was briefly rebranded as the Elite Theater. New acts came in, most famously Big Minnie, a 6-foot, 230-pound woman who performed in pink tights and played the piano while belting bawdy tunes to raucous applause. But the good times just couldn't last. By 1892, the theater had closed. Tombstone was fading, but the birdcage remained, and it seemed that not everyone had left. Historical records list 26 documented deaths in the birdcage, though many believe that number is much higher. A gambler who dropped dead at the table. Could it have been heart failure or poison? A sex worker named Dora May who died upstairs in her crib, cause unknown. A janitor in 1902 crushed by falling plaster while helping clear the boarded up theater. Their names may be lost to time, but perhaps that's why their presence lingers, trapped in the very walls they once knew. Bullet holes still scar the woodwork, and blood still stains the stage. With that kind of history, perhaps it's no surprise that some believe the dead never truly left. Visitors today report sudden chills, the scent of perfume or cigar smoke with no source, whispers in empty rooms, and shadows that dart just out of sight. One of the most infamous spirits is that of Margarita, a painted lady murdered on the premises, stabbed with a stiletto by another jealous prostitute, allegedly for flirting with the wrong client. Her killer disappeared into the night, and the murder weapon went with them. Now let's step back into the haze of gaslight and cigar smoke. It's 1886. A cold wind slips under the doors of the Birdcage Theater. The night crowd is louder than usual. Coins clink, cards shuffle, and heels click against dusty floorboards. Up in one of those cribs sits Margarita. She's laughing softly, playing with a lock of her black hair. Her eyes flick to a man standing near the bar. He's new in town, maybe generous, maybe lonely. He looks up and smiles. But someone is watching, jealous, furious. Later that night, while a vaudeville act distracts the crowd below, Margarita walks backstage. She never makes it to the dressing room. A shadow moves behind her, a flash, and then silence. She's found an hour later, lifeless, her corset soaked in blood. They say that stiletto vanished without a trace until nearly 100 years later it was discovered behind a wall during a renovation. Hidden in the wood like a memory the building refused to bury. So I actually received an email from a listener, and I had already had the Birdcage Theater on my list of spooky spaces, but I wasn't going to do it this early. But I thought that it was maybe, a sign that I actually ended up getting an email about it. So it read, in 2017, my partner and I visited Tombstone on a road trip. During our tour of the birdcage, I wandered into the poker room alone. I stood near the table admiring the old chips, and I swear to God I heard someone exhale behind me. I turned around, but there was nothing there. But the room suddenly kind of felt heavier, like the energy had changed or someone had stepped in. I left quickly before I could figure out who it was. Thank you for sharing your story. I don't think I would have left so quickly. I'm that person who, what is it? What do they say? Pardon my language. Walk around and find out. I'm that person when it comes to ghosts. So, then there's the case of Wyatt Earp's statue. Every morning, staff would find its cowboy hat on the floor, even though no one had moved it. And a historian eventually noted that the cage where the statue stood had once belonged to Ike Clanton. And if you don't know who Ike Clanton was, he was a sworn enemy of the Earps. And after moving the statue to a different balcony, they say that the disturbances actually stopped. Now, other reports include phantom footsteps descending to the long-closed basement, objects vanishing only to reappear in odd places, and even voices caught on audio recorders whispering names that no one remembers. And some say that during quiet moments, if you stand alone on the main floor, you can hear the faint strains of a piano, playing a tune that hasn't graced a stage in over a century. The Birdcage's stage hasn't been used in performance since 1892, but many say it still remembers. One tour guide described that sound checks often return strange interference, static, odd pops, and even whispers. And when a group of paranormal investigators left a digital recorder on the stage overnight, it picked up what sounded like applause. Soft, polite, and unmistakably human. Now let's go back to a time where Doc Holliday, it's 2 a.m. The poker room is thick with smoke. Doc Holliday is seated, his fingers drumming the table. Across from him, one-eyed Bill Ransom, a known cheat. The hand begins, chips clatter, a slow silence builds. Holiday asks, "You gonna play, Bill, or fold like your last 5 wives?" And Bill says, "You talk too much, Doc." As Bill goes to draw, a card slips, just enough to show he's palming one. Holiday stands. One shot rings out. They dragged Bill out. Doc never flinched. The game, well, it continued until dawn. Now, with stories like these, it didn't take long for the Birdcage Theater to capture the attention of ghost hunters and skeptics alike. In 2006, the team from Ghost Hunters recorded unexplained voices and anomalies. Anomalies? In 2006, the team from Ghost Hunters recorded unexplained voices and anomalies in their infrared footage. In 2009 and again in 2015, Ghost Adventures featured the Birdcage, capturing what they described as some of the most intense paranormal energy they'd ever encountered. And even Fact or Faked investigated the site in 2011. Now, each investigation added to the mystique. Was it all showmanship, or was there truly something lingering within the walls, drawn back again and again to this theater of vice and vitality? Now, beyond the hauntings, the birdcage has become an enduring symbol of the American frontier, and it was even featured in the 1993 film Tombstone, and it's regularly referenced in documentaries and travel shows about the Old West. And if you haven't seen the 1993 film Tombstone, it watch it now. You can even pause this, go watch it, come back. It's an amazing film. Val Kilmer is the best Doc Holliday, and I will die on that hill. So today, the Birdcage is a museum left almost exactly as it was when the doors closed in 1892. Dust-covered poker chips still lie on the table, stage props rest in place, and even the bullet holes in the walls are untouched. Guided ghost tours lead guests through its preserved rooms, with stories whispered in the dim light. Now, for many, it's a chance to step back in time, and for others, it's a brush with the beyond. I spoke to a local guide named Sarah, who's worked at the Birdcage, I think she said, for 5 years. She told me about a night when she locked up alone, only to hear someone humming from the stage. It was a woman's voice, soft but clear, she said. I stood still, and then I heard a chair creak, like someone was sitting down in the front row, but I was alone, or at least I thought I was alone. Others have reported hearing children's laughter, despite there being no children on the premises, perhaps a cruel echo of one of the prostitute's children who once lived and died upstairs. Of course, not everyone believes in ghosts, but belief isn't the point. Psychologists say our brains are wired to find patterns in darkness, to hear voices in static, and to imagine footsteps when we're alone. But in a place like the birdcage, so full of emotion, so full of death, drama, desperation, maybe we don't imagine the energy we feel. Maybe we're just tuning into it. Now, the Birdcage Theater is a time capsule, rich in history, shadowed by tragedy, and alive with the stories of those who once walked its halls. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, one thing is certain: the past never truly dies in Tombstone, Arizona. It waits, patiently, for those willing to listen. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the Birdcage Theater. If you've ever visited, like the listener above, or if you have stories of your own from haunted places, I'd love to hear them. Reach out through you can actually send me a message on social media, Instagram, Facebook. You can email me at creepycases.spookyspaces@gmail.com. Feel free to reach out through Spotify here. I believe you can send me a message, or you can actually leave a comment on the episode itself. I would love to hear them. So one of my favorite things is actually hearing about other people's paranormal experiences, how they felt. Are you a skeptic? Are you still on the fence if ghosts exist or not? Have you had an experience where you're like, no, that was just, the tree outside, and then it turned out to not just be the tree outside? I'd love to hear it, so go ahead and please send those to me. Until the next bump in the night, keep seeking those stories that history has left behind. You've been listening to Creepy Cases and Spooky Spaces, the podcast where the world of true crime meets the paranormal. I'm your host, Cassiopeia. Join me every Tuesday as I deep dive into chilling cases that have baffled investigators and the eerie places where dark stories still linger. If you can't get enough of these creepy tales, consider supporting the podcast on Patreon, where you can access exclusive content, early episode releases, and bonus material that'll make you sleep with one eye open. You can also grab some Creepy Cases and Spooky Spaces merchandise to keep the spookiness close, whether it's a mug for your morning coffee or a hoodie to wrap yourself in on those cold, stormy nights. If you love what you hear, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Tell your friends, and give a rating to help with that pesky algorithm. Thanks for tuning in, and remember, keep your lights on, because you never know what might be lurking in the dark.